Hello and welcome to yesterday's Airlines. It's time to take a look at the jcwings June 2022 release set. And so I will be tearing these, as I have been for the last couple of months now, from supersonic down to scrap metal. Now jcwings have already announced, just in the past few weeks, a selection of Airbus A380s, and I'm not going to talk about those because I've already talked about them on the website. In the fact that they're mainly just spoilers for the Aviation 400, you can tell they're out of the release sequence. That's exactly what they are, and they're all going to be perfectly ordinary A380s because the jcwings A380 is ordinary. So I'm not going to talk about those. Instead, I'm going to focus on the new announcements that came out just a few days ago, and there are quite a large number of these, 17 in fact, which continues to show that 400 scale is going great guns. Somehow, despite the fact that the prices of the models are skyrocketing and you can barely get a 737 for under $50 US nowadays, or approaching £50 sometimes in the UK, somehow the 400 scale manufacturers are still all going great guns and releasing record numbers of models each month. And jcwings this month has got 17 different versions, 19 if you take into account the flaps down versions. So that is quite a lot of models, especially for JC. And also, interestingly, it seems like jcwings has got the majority of these releases almost ready to go as well. Now that sounds quite impressive for jcwings, but as you will see when I walk through the releases, there is a substantial amount of repetition in this release set, and I would bet that several of these models have been sitting in the warehouse for literally couple of years waiting for their second release, effectively. So it's perhaps not quite as a large release set or as exciting a release set as it first appears, because a lot of this has been made before, even by JC themselves. Anyway, as always, before I get started, subscribe to the channel. Check out yesterday's Airlines, my website, which has got a huge amount of material about 400 scale on it. Follow me on Instagram at Yester Airlines and check me out on Facebook too at Yester Airlines. But now let's get over to the jcwings release set and see what I think about this month's bunch. So I'm going to go through the models, and I'm going to try to start with the Airbuses and then move on to the Boeings. And we'll start with what, for the Western audience, I imagine is a pretty ordinary and disinteresting jcwings release, and that is the Airbus A319, which is in the colours of the China Air Force, the People's Liberation Army Air Force. It's registered B4092, and it is a pretty ordinary release. There's nothing too exciting going on with this one, mainly because they've already released it once before. Back in 2018 they released its sister ship B4090, so there is very little new going on with this release. You would expect it to look pretty much exactly the same as the previous version, which was okay. Because obviously the jcwings / Gemini A320 family molds are just okay, and this is a CFM powered machine, and so that means that you've got to cater for the fact that the engines on the jcwings Airbus CFM family are a little bit too large, or they seem too large. Having said that, it's not the end of the universe from my perspective. Actually, this model looks okay, and if I didn't already have one of these from Panda Models, then I would perhaps be interested in getting this. And looking at the pictures of this is one of the ones which is going to be out soon. It looks okay, it's fine, but it's exactly the same effectively as the release from 2018. So for me, this one is strictly sitting up there in the old territory of workhorse, and there's I don't think there's many people in the Western audience who are going to be too excited by that release. Next up, we've got Air Berlin, an Airbus A320, and again, this is one of the models which is going to be available soon. So we've got a picture of it, and you can also see on the box in the picture that there are 4 Air Berlin Airbus A320s which jcwings are going to be releasing. They've actually released 2 of these already. They've released the one-wheeled release and the Lint Hello Flying Home for Christmas version 2. So those 2 are already out. That means that there's a Fan Force 1 version coming soon, and this version is just in the standard colours, which you might think is the least interesting of the 4, but actually when I look back through what has been made for Air Berlin, and there's only one other standard colours Air Berlin A320 wearing this scheme been made. That was by Phoenix, and looking at it, even though you could argue the Phoenixmodel, actually you couldn't really argue it, it's just as bad as the jcwings one for different reasons, and their cockpit printing looks rubbish on that model as well. Yeah, actually I think this Air Berlin version will be better, and if you've got the other 2 then it will make a nice set. Again, it's got CFM engines, so they're perhaps a little oversized, but it's not the end of the universe. Yeah, it's obviously not going to hold a candle till the new NG molds or what Air Classics have made historically, but it does have aerials and better tie hubs obviously than Air Classics. Yeah, I mean it's going to be fine. Again, it looks okay from the pictures I'm seeing. If you like Air Berlin, then there's a good chance this will be worthwhile if you don't already have the Phoenix version, and I think this will be better than that. So it's great. It's not going to be spectacular. It's another workhorse model for me. So now we're moving on into the larger part of the A321 family, and we've got one of the models which isn't available yet, which isn't too surprising because the aircraft itself has only just flown, and that is the Airbus A321 XLR, the extra long range version of the A321, which has just flown. So can't talk too much about what this will look like because obviously I can't see it, but the jcwings A321 mold is, yeah, it's okay. It'll be interesting to see whether they get the wings right on this, because as my understanding is this XLR version actually goes back to the A320 style wings with less flapjack fairing, so it'll be interesting to see what goes on with that. Nobody else has announced this so far. That doesn't necessarily mean they're not going to. I'd be surprised if it didn't get made by someone else, and if it was NG who announced it, then I would probably go with that one instead. But it's got the potential to be an okay model. I think again this one is just going to be workhorse for me. There's a lot of workhorse this month, and the next A321 is another model which has been made previously by somebody else. In this case, it's the Arkia A321 4XAGH, wearing the pink-tailed version of the Arkia scheme. And this is one that is going to be out soon, and we can have a look at the picture. And you can see again that they're clearly going to be making some more Arkia A321s, because you can see on the box there are 2 other versions with different tail colours. So if you want a fleet build, then this is good. Having said that, looking at the picture, yeah, I'm a little underwhelmed. The colours are good. The colours are better than on the Aero Classics version, which is the same. Obviously, this one's got better tail hubs and antenna. So all those things are good. Having said that, I don't really think that they've got the cockpit masking or cockpit windows looking great. It doesn't look great from the nose at all, actually, and it does look a little bit nose go down too. Yeah, I'm not loving it, to be honest. I'm going to be harsh, and I'm going to put this one down into the gas guzzler territory because it's just not coming together. And this is always the problem you have with JC and Gemini A320 family aircraft. Sometimes they look okay, even quite good sometimes, and then other times they can look, really ordinary and not good at all. And if there's an alternative, then I would suggest taking that. So just a gas guzzler, that one for me. Next up, we're into A330 900 territory, and we've got another bit of repetition here, in that we've got a Lion Air A330 900 Neo, PKLEJ. They've already made a Lion Air A330 Neo, the PKLEI version. I own that. I really like the jcwings A330 Neo. It's certainly better than the Phoenix version, though it isn't perfect, and you have to say the wings are a little bit flappy, a little bit high on the jcwings version, but the mould overall is better than the Phoenix version. I've done a detailed mould scoring review of that. Check it out at the website, so you can see that it is a better mould than the Phoenix version. Phoenix have actually also made, obviously, a Lion Air A330 Neo in the past. Do we need a third one? It's effectively the same livery. It's not a very exciting livery. I mean, it's just jcwings spreading their bets and going for fleet builders, I guess. It's just another workhorse model because it's not very interesting, is it? It's nothing new, and they've already made it once. So, of the models we're looking at here so far, 2 of them have been made effectively by jcwings before. One of them is part of a series of models that have been made by jcwings before. Only the 2 A321s are effectively kind of new for JC. Anyway, there is also another A330-900 Neo announced this month, and that is in the slightly more unusual colours of All Best. And I actually had to look up who the hell All Best were. They're a Portuguese, or they were a Portuguese charter airline, and they don't actually exist anymore. They've since been merged with Envelop and are now called Iberojet. These names all kind of sound vaguely the same and kind of don't really seem to mean very much. But nonetheless, it's nice to see something a little bit more unusual. This is one of the models that isn't out yet, so we've just got a photo representation of it. The livery is, it's okay. It's kind of like a lot of these airlines from the Spain and Portugal. I mean, they've got this wonderful sunny area geography and got this amazing, deep history, and they produced a really boring and ordinary scheme. So it's this one, it's green and it's blue and a bit of lilac. I mean, it's not very exciting, but it is a new livery for 400 scale and a new aircraft livery combination too. So you got to big up that. That's good. And for me, this one is the first model which I'm going to move up into high flyer territory mainly because of that. I like the mould, and it's a new airline aircraft combination for the scale. So it's better than the previous bunch here. Okay. Now we've got a couple of A340-600s from JC hit this month. Phoenix own this space for A340-600s. There's no doubt about it. Now, JC and Gemini have a mould. It's a mould that's been updated, and it's okay, but it's nowhere near as good as the Phoenix mould. Not just because it is a traditional cradle mount mould and therefore it's got a substantial wing seam. There are other reasons when you look across it that make it inferior. Just the general kind of shape of pieces is not quite as good as on the Phoenix version. Having said that, it isn't dreadful. It's perfectly okay. And this month we've got 2. The first of which is Malef Aero 9H PPE. This is one of the ex-Virgin A340-600s, which has been flying for Malef since COVID. And this one, illustrates that, as it's got a big support our NHS colours on it over the base Virgin scheme. So I imagine this aircraft, as the reg suggests, was one of the aircraft which has been flying as a freighter, a passenger freighter, conversion. The scheme is really bland, but it's not as bad as the sister ship. At least it's got a Union Jack in the heart. So this actually is a new version. Originally I thought this was going to be the same as the previous version, which had Thank You NHS on it and a red heart. This one has got Support Our NHS on it and the Union Jack heart. The box again suggests that they probably will make the other version. That's the other version which has been made by Phoenix already on obviously the superior Phoenix mold, but this version has not been made by Phoenix. It's going to be fine. It's not a particularly exciting livery, but it is a new livery. The mold is not spectacular, but for me, it's a workhorse model. It'll be okay. It's not going to be great. And next up, the second A340-600 is Convoyaza. And now I really like the Convoyaza colours. And it's interesting that they're picking up an A340-600. Obviously, this is part of that whole bizarre and random connection they have with Iran, mainly because of American sanctions. So this aircraft is one of the ones that's come from Mahan Air. Yeah, I love the scheme. I am certain that Phoenix are going to make this model in the coming months, and that's why I'm going to put this in the gas guzzler territory, because if it's a choice between getting this version or the Phoenix version, then clearly it's going to be the Phoenix version that you should be getting, and this is a really nice scheme. I would wait for the Phoenix version myself if I were you. So I'm moving this from the gas guzzler because the mould is, it's okay, it's not great. I mean, that's perhaps harsh, but hey, that's my decision. Okay, we've got a couple more Airbuses to go, and next up we've got an A380. This is not one of the A380s they announced the other day. This is a different A380. It's an A380 of Etihad, and it's the reg is A6APE, and it's called Choose the United Kingdom, the livery. And to be fair, this is a really nice scheme. I really quite like the Etihad scheme, let's be honest. It's an attractive scheme. This one's got a London skyline on it, all the quintessentially English things that, sometimes make you gag somewhat when you see them. I always think I always say if you've got an American film and they want to show you they're in London, then you'll see a black taxi cab, and you'll see a red Routemaster bus go past. And of course, so what do we got on this livery? We've got a red phone box. We've got the Tower of London, or Tower Bridge, sorry. We've got a couple of guards with the bearskin hats. We've got the Big Ben, and we've got the London Eye, and we've got a double-decker bus. But nonetheless, it does look actually quite nice, despite me complaining about the stereotypical nature of the livery. It actually looks quite nice. So, yeah, I actually think this will be really attractive. It's almost a shame they're putting it on the jcwings mould, because, as I've said already, that mould is pretty ordinary. So for me, this one's just going to be a workhorse model, because the mould is not going to do it. Having said that, I think JC will probably do a really good job on the printing. So it'll be a strong workhorse. But if anyone else makes this, then it'll probably be better, because they'll have a better base mould to put it on. Okay, a couple of Airbuses left, and for me, the star model of this month is the next one. It is an Airbus A300 Beluga, not the Beluga XL. This is the one based on the A300, the old version, and if you believe them, it is interactive, so that is pretty cool. So this is a new mould from jcwings, and they don't seem to advertise these new molds they produce very much. FGSTA, Interactive Series, says, and this has the potential to be really, really good. So it'll be interesting to see what it's like. I'm willing to believe that this is going to be an excellent model. Interactive Series so far has been great. It's been something I've really enjoyed. So I've not seen any pictures or any suggestion before this announcement that they were making a new mold for this. Nobody else has made a Beluga except for eons ago. Dragon Wings had one, and I think there may have been a couple of other even more random versions like Del Prado or something, which no one cares about. But nobody mainstream aside from Dragon has ever made a Beluga model, so it's great to see this, and I think this is going to be a really nice model with potential to be excellent. I'm willing to accept that they're going to do a great job on a new mould for it, and the Interactive Series excites me. This one's going up into Supersonic. I think this one will kick ass. Hopefully it shows up within a year or so of the announcement. Okay, well, I think we've got one Airbus left over, which I forgot about because it's not exciting me, and that is an ITA A350. And this aircraft is wearing the Born to be Sustainable colours, if you can indeed call them colours. It's effectively a white aeroplane with a little bit of text on it. There's been a few of these releases recently where airlines have taken up aircraft and haven't had a chance to paint them into their proper colours, and so they just slap the tiles on and slap on some wording on the fuselage, and it would look better if they actually at least did the tail, but they haven't. Not really sure how I feel about ITA Airways anyway. I guess their new scheme, their standard scheme, is pretty eye-catching. No, I can't say I love it. This is barely a livery. It's going to be, you collect ITA, you'll want this, but I don't really see why anyone else would particularly want it. It's not particularly exciting. And the jcwings A350 is a perfectly good mould, but in my opinion, behind the Aviation 400 and the ngmodels version. So yeah, it'll be fine, but it's not going to be great. It's another workhorse, you know. It's perfectly ordinary model that they're going to make here. Nothing too exciting for me for that one. Okay, cool. So that is all of the Airbus models this month, and as you can see, in my view, Airbus is not the strong point for jcwings, because most of the models they have are they're just middling, really. The A320 family across the board, the A380, the A340-600, even the A350, and the only one of these molds of all of these that I think is really good is the A330-900, and hopefully this new A300 Beluga. So now we'll move on to the Boeings. So there are a lot less Boeings than there are Airbus models this month, and actually I do tend to think that the Boeing molds that they've got are often better than their Airbus molds. So we'll start off with another re-release, and this one is the Cathay Pacific 747-8 freighter BLJA. We're in Hong Kong trader. This is literally just a re-release of a model they've already made and I got last month, and it's a nice model. It's a really nice model, but because it's basically just a re-release, you know, it's not much to say about it. I love the interactive series and I love the model. I love the scheme. It's really nice, but it's a workhorse model, isn't it? Because it's a re-release. Next up, we've got something which is a bit more unusual, a bit more exciting, you could argue, and that is this Star Wars model. And this is Alaska Airlines wearing this all black scheme with the Millennium Falcon on the tail, which actually looks like an awesome livery, I have to say. You look at this plane and you think of this and go, oh, that's a really kick-ass livery, looks really good. So it's really advertising, I think, a ride or something at Disneyland, and the aircraft is registered N538AS, and you've got a Millennium Falcon in large on the tail with a selection of TIE fighters shooting at it. It looks really cool. So I think this has potential to be a really nice release. Unfortunately, it's going to be on the jcwings 737-800 mold, which is it's mediocre at best. It's certainly inferior to the NG mold, and that would, again, much like with the Convoy ASA, this would be my warning here. Is like, yeah, you could pre-order this with JC and wait however long before they release it. And get a model which is kind of going to be okay, but nothing special. Or you could just wait a little bit, and it's almost certainly going to get released by NG models who've clearly shown no interest in worrying about licensing. So, wouldn't it be better just to wait? You know, even if NG don't release it, you could pick it up from JC when they eventually do. There's no real reason to rush out and pre-order this. And let's face it, it's going to be okay, but it's not going to be spectacular, because even though they do the most amazing job on the paint and the design, it's still going to be put on a really mediocre mold. So I can't give it a high fly. I just can't. It's going to be ordinary. It's an ordinary model with a nice paint job, and it's a workhorse. Just 4 models left, and it's not been a great month so far for JC, in my opinion. But these things are about to get better, because there's a pair of 767-300s here, which is more the sort of thing that I personally would like to see from JC, and also the sort of thing they actually just do better. 767-300s don't get a huge number of releases anymore, and the molds that are out there aren't new. There's no denying it. The Phoenix and JC have both got molds, and they're both, you know, okay, not spectacular, and I'm sure they could be improved upon. They're both, or at least the JC one here has got a substantial wing seam, but actually is a really nice mold. In my opinion, it's not a bad mold. It's nice, and there actually has never been a KLM 767-300ER, so it's really good to see some uniqueness creeping in here and there in JC releases, and this is one which I think will be popular because KLM's generally a popular airline anyway, but also is really cool, and it almost sneaks into my buying criteria period, but just doesn't quite. Looking at the pictures, is one of the ones which is going to be released soon. The model looks good, it looks nice. The only question mark I have over it is the cockpit window printing. I do think they don't always get this right on their 767s. It looks a bit big and not necessarily in the right place. But I'm willing to give this one a good rating. I think it's a great choice for a model, and it's looking quite good. And I haven't got too many problems with the mould, even though it's relatively old. This one's high flyer territory for me for sure. And similarly, when I look at the images of the LOT Polish version here, then actually, arguably, it looks even better. The windows, cockpit windows in this one, look better, and I love the old lot scheme, and actually this is one of the schemes we're having. The black anti-glare really works as well. It really kind of finishes off the scheme. It looks really good. I mean, this is a model I am really tempted to buy. I know that Aero Classics did a lot 767-200, and actually I own that model, and that's super nice too. I don't know if I can justify having a 200 and a 300, but this one's looking really nice. So yet again, I don't think there's any reason to be saying, oh, I don't think this is going to be a good model. It clearly looks like it's going to be a good model, but I like the mould, even though it's got a seam. The printing on this one looks great, and it's a great choice for a release too. So for me, again, this one is another high flyer. So the 767s here are both really nice models that I'm pretty happy about. Just two models left, and the next one is a Royal Air Maroc on a 787. And when I first saw this, I thought, oh, that's cool, that's colourful. I bet no one's made that model before. And then I checked up what's been made, and it has been made before. It's been made by Phoenix, but also it's actually been made by jcwings as well, which I don't understand why they're making this again. They made CN Ram, which is a different rego to this aircraft, and they made, at that time, they made flaps up and flaps down. And this version, which is CN RGX, is also available in flaps up and flaps down. But I don't really understand why they're remaking it. The original model looks great. This one will no doubt look great because it's the same model with a different reg. Not sure why they're doing that. And I can't give it a high fly even though the model's going to be great because they've already made it. I mean, it's just a copy of the same model. It's just a re-reg branding. Can't get excited about those really. So workhorse for me. And that leaves just one model left over, and that is an Etihad 777-200 long range, and A6LRB is the aircraft. And this one is a second model because there's one last month announced which comes with an aviation tag. So presumably they've purchased a chunk of the actual aircraft A6LRB, which has now been parted out, and they're going to include these aviation tags on the models. And that's a really nice little initiative, albeit one which max the price up to crazy territories, like over $70. Now I can understand that you're getting something extra with it, but what happens if you just want the model? Yeah, so I'm on the fence about whether this whole aviation tag thing is a good idea or not, especially in the current climate where the models are just costing more and more every month. But ignoring that, looking at what's been made on Etihad 777s, there isn't a huge amount. This is the first time since a Phoenix version, which was made in 2014, that anyone has made a 777LR in Etihad colours. It's going to be on the new excellent jcwings mould, so it's all adding up to a pretty cool model, and for me this one therefore is going to move up into high flyer territory for that reason. Great mould, relatively unusual area, and the aviation tag is adding something, though it's mainly probably just the price. So I'll give this one a high flyer. And that's the roundup basically. That's my lot for JC this month. I actually, looking across this large number of releases, I'm rather underwhelmed. As you can tell, there's a lot of ordinary releases here on relatively ordinary moulds that they've already made kind of before. You know, there's how many of these effectively are remakes? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 of these have basically been done before, and it's not particularly exciting for that reason. But there's still some really good stuff here to be had. The 767s are going to be great, and that Beluga has massive potential. So yeah, not the best month, but not the worst month. Perfectly, ordinary month, I guess, for JC. So that's my roundup done. What do you guys think? Leave some comments. Obviously, say what it is you're going to be getting and whether you think I got this right or wrong. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you next time. Cheers.